This is the Low Key Podcast. I do not own the rights to the music that's being played in future podcasts or past podcasts. This is the Low Key Podcast, episode 47. I'm so Brooklyn.
All is one. It's going to be hard to do anything good as a basketball team.
I love this city. I literally have done everything that I can. The situation is something that I don't think can be fixed.
Breaking news tonight. James Harden has been traded.
He gets his wish in every way. The trade to the Brooklyn Nets in a blockbuster deal that's going to have ripple effects throughout the NBA.
What's going on, man? This is the Low Key Podcast. This is episode 47. I'm so Brooklyn. Of course, we're going to be getting into the James Harden trade to the Brooklyn Nets. Yes, James Harden has been traded to the Brooklyn Nets from the Houston Rockets. And I'm just tripping off this whole formula that him and Westbrook have been traded to the East. Is anybody noticing a pattern? It seems kind of odd that like LeBron James comes to the West and then you have all of these Western Conference players that's easing on over to the East. I mean, I'm just saying, I'm not trying to be funny anything. I'm just saying, though, like you have this 36-year-old LeBron James coming in, winning the championship with the Lakers. And then you have a lot of these guys going over to the East because, you know, I'm guessing you're going to have a little bit more dominance now going on in the East. You know, with Giannis, the Greek freak. You got Westbrook over there. You got James Harden. I mean, you still have Toronto Raptors. You still have Boston Celtics. I mean, you still have some legitimate teams in the East, and this is getting kind of packed up over there again. And now we not only that, we have another big three with James Harden, Kyrie Irving, if he gonna play, and Kevin Durant. But like I've said, it's still Lakers with me. It ain't just because I've always been a Lakers fan as far as Kobe Bryant, Shaquille O'Neal, Robert Horry, Derek Fisher, Phil Jackson, you know, classic. But this is just going off of the talent that not only the Lakers had last year, but the talent they've added. We're talking about Schroeder off Oklahoma City, and you're talking about Montreal off the Los Angeles Clippers. And these are two pivotal guys coming in. Not only that, we still have Kyle Kuzma. We still have Anthony Davis. And last but not least, of course, we got the king, LeBron James. And the way LeBron James has been able to take care of himself, I'm hoping that we're going to get the way we have these new players coming in. LeBron James is going to be able to rest his body, being he's a lot older now. But I hear everybody with this, we got three pure shooters on the Brooklyn Nets. First of all, James Harden has to show up in the playoffs. Let's make that clear. Kyrie Irving has to get to the playoffs as far as just being able to play. Let's make that clear. So are you going to tell me that Kevin Durant is going to do this by himself? Let's be clear. He still has to get through the East. I see it with everybody saying about the Bucks. I just know what happened in the playoffs or whatnot, but let's be clear, man. You still have to get through some guys in the East. It's still some legitimate teams they're going to have to get through in the East. It's the Philadelphia 76ers are still there. Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat are still there. If you think Jimmy Butler and the Heat are just going away miraculously just because James Harden and the Heat has joined the Nets, you mistaken. You are terribly mistaken. But just seeing all these moves, and even with the Wizards, like you think, like I ain't gonna lie, man, I don't see the Wizards doing anything, but I'm just saying though, you think Westbrook and Bradley Beal are just gonna let KD and them come in and do what they want to do? I don't think so, and I don't see that happening. So with all that being said, like I said, I am still Lakers. I am still Lakers. But my whole thing with this Brooklyn Nets thing is how trying to see the formula of this working. Like I said, Kyrie is not even playing right now, right? So I know KD and James Harden have been on the same team before, but I mean, I don't think KD is not a give me the, well, I ain't gonna say he's not a ball dominant guy. The guy needs supposed to have a ball in his hand, especially being as pure of a shooter as he is. And he's a way better shooter than James Harden. Like I said, KD has showed up in the playoffs. We have seen KD. We have not seen James Harden, though, in the playoffs. And this is exciting for the regular season, yeah. It's the same thing that you see with the Clippers. It's like, that's cool if Paul George's going to do something. But what you going to do when it comes time to the playoffs? What you going to do when it gets to this championship time? That's what we want to see. This is real cute to see these guys forming up or whatnot. Yeah, I'm saying cute because I'm just looking at LeBron James, and this is up in my respect for LeBron James because I never really was a fan of LeBron, of course. Like I said, I'm Kobe Bryant, man. Kobe Bryant all day long. Rest in peace, the Black Mamba. I'm Kobe Bryant. I'm that era of Shaquille O'Neal, Tracy McGrady, Vince Carter, Allen Iverson, Stephon Marbury, Dick and Mutombo. Say what you want to say. Mutombo was out there doing his thing. You talking about, man, I'm that era, man. We are talking about the grit and the grind. We're talking about the fights. We're talking about the intensity of seeing these teams play against each other. Not saying that you don't have that these days, but man, the shit has changed. And we all know that it has changed. Well, as far as my generation and my peers, it has changed. And it's going to be the same thing with the next generation. Just like when you had Michael Jordan going against Isaiah Thomas and them, you see how it wasn't as raw when Kobe was playing. It was still kind of rough, but it wasn't as raw as them times. But like I said, just seeing this new formula of these super teams is the thing. And like I said, I feel like LeBron James kicked it off. I mean, well, we could say that Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, and Ray Allen kind of kicked it off. Yeah, you can say they kicked it off because before then, I mean, who you gonna say your big three was? It ain't even necessarily a big three because these guys was already formulated on the team. You're talking about the Manu Ginobili's, Tim Duncan, David Robinsons, or you're talking about the Shaquille O'Neals, the Kobe Bryants, and the Derek Fishers. But like, you talking about Robert Horry. We're talking about a good lineup for the Lakers. But when you're talking about these new super teams, and that's why I'm kind of rooting for Giannis. I hope I'm saying this right now, but the Greek Freak. I'm rooting for the Greek Freak because if I'm not mistaken, he's that guy that's saying he's not trying to team up with these guys. He's trying to beat people. And that's what's up. And that's the same thing with a guy like Jimmy Butler. That's why I'm excited to see what they're going to try to do with the East. Like, I want to see what James Harden, Kevin Durant, and Kyrie Irving going to do against these top caliber teams in the East, especially Jimmy Butler and the Heat. I see a lot of loose respect for what they did last year in the playoffs and leading up to that championship game against the Los Angeles Lakers. And I feel like a lot of people are not giving them their credit, especially with Jimmy Butler, Tyler Hero, but especially mainly with Jimmy Butler and his presence on the team and his leadership. So you can have all the great shooters you want. Like we seen this with Miami Heat when LeBron James came over there with Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade. So right now, everybody is looking for the chemistry and what the chemistry is going to be like with Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving. I personally think it is going to work. The fact that KD and Kyrie Irving, I mean, he was looking for KD. The thing is he going to play? That's his thing. What I want to say is KD and James Harden, I feel like they are a good combination, man, because of James Harden can be a ball-dominant player on the Nets, and still KD can get his shots. Because KD is not going to go up to James Harden like, yo, man, give me the ball. I need the ball. Maybe at the end, like that fourth quarter, when that fourth quarter come around, then that's when KD like, yeah. And I think James Harden will be cool with that because he trusts KD. I think he'll have a way better trust for Kevin Durant than he would have with Russell Westbrook or John Wall. And the whole thing is that what about when Kyrie comes in? Is Kyrie going to need that, have that ball in his hands, or is it going to be James Harden? Because James Harden is going to come in needing that ball. And I feel like if you're the Brooklyn Nets, you got to let James Harden control that ball. And for my opinion, I mean, if KD wants it, give it to him, of course. But I'm saying if Kevin Durant wants it, but Kevin Durant, he just doesn't give that presence of saying, give me the ball. I want the ball. I understand what he did with Danny Green, or not Danny Green. Who was it? It was with the Green, when Golden State Warriors with Green, when he was basically wanting Green to pass on the ball, but Green was trying to run it down there. He would end up running it out of bounds, and something happened, and Kevin Durant and Green on the Golden State Warriors got into it because Kevin Durant was like, yo, I needed that ball. That ball should have been in my hands to make that shot. So that's kind of a thing that I guess that you could say that Kevin Durant might be implying, as far as he might want that ball. He might need that ball. But I feel like from quarters 1 to 3, it's going to be between Kyrie Irving and James Harden. And I preferably would say that Brooklyn Nets are going to choose James Harden to have that ball most of the time. And I don't have no problem with that, I guess, because, this is two different formulas as far as what James Harden had in Houston and what he's going to have in Brooklyn. So I still feel like Kevin Durant and James Harden are going to trust each other with the ball. I keep being iffy a little bit on Kyrie Irving just because of his whole thing with LeBron and him even transitioning over to Boston and that whole situation, and now coming to Brooklyn. So I have to see what that formula is going to be as far as Kyrie Irving. I know how James Harden is in the playoffs. Like, he don't show up, but as far as his teammate ability, I feel like he can work with Kevin Durant. I know how it was with him and Chris Paul, and even with the whole Westbrook thing, that only lasted a year. I still feel like it went no friction there between those two. I just feel like those two just couldn't play together because these are two ball-dominant players. James Harden got to have the ball. Russell Westbrook got to have the ball. So you see how that situation played out, and seeing that, like, they couldn't just do it like that. And I feel like James Harden and Russell Westbrook came to that conclusion and said, yo, we just got to go our separate ways. No bad blood or nothing. Not like Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook when they left each other in Oklahoma City. So, yeah, I feel like Kevin Durant and James Harden are going to play off each other way better than the situation was going to be with James Harden and John Wall, or James Harden and Russell Westbrook for another season. Like I said, the big question mark is Kyrie Irving. And the thing is, because I'm going to have to get up on my basketball, man. Like I said, I'm keeping up with it. I'm paying attention to it, but man, my whole thing is that for me, man, I'm Kobe Bryant. That's my generation, man. I just miss that type of basketball. And I'm still up on the date on everything that's going on, of course, just like what I'm talking about now. But as far as just sitting down watching them games like I used to do with watching like Detroit Pistons with Richard Hamilton, them, you know what I'm saying, going against the Lakers when they had Gary Payton them out there and Karl Malone. Like, I'm talking about later on. This is like 2004. And this is when Lakers lost against Detroit Pistons in the championship. I'm just saying, man, that dominance. Even back then, man, when the All-Star games was going on, it was like you had people trying to compete. That's all I'm saying. I'm not trying to make this that either. I feel like that's a whole nother episode talking about how the NBA used to be. But what I am want to talk about, like I said, is just implying what's going on with the Brooklyn Nets and trying to see if they're going to be able to hold up this teammate as far as James Harden and his whole chemistry with the other teammates outside of Kevin Durant. Because I don't feel like James Harden is a bad teammate, but you see how everything was going with his way out of Houston. You seen how DeMarcus Cousins then was talking and stuff and how everything was going. I mean, it ain't like DeMarcus Cousins is the best teammate in the world, but I mean, besides the King, DeMarcus Cousins has been a pretty decent teammate on the Lakers, on the New Orleans Pelicans, as far as I know. And who else was it? The team he was recently on. Well, he on Houston now. But anyway, I'm just saying, you seen everything that happened with James Harden and Chris Paul, and people was coming at Chris Paul all type of ways when everything went down with him and the Clippers. But you seen what Chris Paul did with Oklahoma City last year, and you see the Clippers. I'm just saying, you see how that goes. So what everybody was saying with him and James Harden when he was in Houston. It's like you see everything that kept happening. When Chris Paul left, James Harden still did not show up in those playoffs when Chris Paul left. So, excuse me to clear my voice. I mean, for good basketball, I think it just would be exciting to see them actually work together and actually be a good team as far as the Brooklyn Nets with James Harden, Kevin Durant, and Kyrie Irving, because it'll make it for good competition out there in the East. Because I'm telling you, I don't care what none of y'all say, the Miami Heat are still that team. Because when it comes to just having a guy that can bring that presence to a team, and what Jimmy Butler did for the Miami Heat with having his presence, and you've seen the difference with him coming from the Timberwolves going into the Philadelphia 76ers. Where were the Philadelphia 76ers at in the playoffs? And where were the Miami Heat at? Yeah, let's talk about that. So when you talk about how dominant the Brooklyn Nets going to be with James Harden and everything, and him, James Harden, man, I'm just saying, man, I ain't body shaming nobody. I mean, I got to get my weight out, but hey, this guy is an athlete. We done seen James Harden the last couple of days. Look at him. Look like to me he ain't missing no Popeyes chicken sandwiches. I'm just saying, man, hey, he coming out of Houston, though, so he might get himself together because, you know, Houston got that good food. So, yeah, I ain't going to even blame it all on him. Houston got some good food down there. But anyway, I'm just saying, man, I just want to see the dominance that they are talking about because you, like I said, you still have the Bucks, you still have Boston. Even I'm gonna give Wizards a little bit of slight chance because I'm not gonna take nothing away from Russell Westbrook and his ability to show up for every single game and come hard in every game. You can say whatever you want to say about Russell Westbrook, but don't tell me he's not gonna show up and play his heart out every single game. And that's where I feel like the East is kind of having that little tilt of being even because with all of that going on, do you see any of them East teams beating a Clippers team or a Lakers team in the playoffs or the championship? That's the thing. Do you see any of those East teams beating a Clippers or a Lakers team? And you see that's the difference between that dominance that's going on in the East and the West. The West still has a bit of that tilt because of the presence of LeBron James and Kawhi Leonard being over here on the West. They still have that edge. You still have Paul George over here as far as the West. When I say over here, I mean as far as my preferences teams. I'm still a Lakers fan, so I'm West Side. You know what I'm saying? As far as going for the Lakers. But like I said, you still have dominance going on. Anthony Davis. Like, we still have that dominance going on as far as the West goes, but it's gonna be a tall tale to see what they're gonna do. And I think it's gonna be, for me, like I said, some exciting basketball. And now this is getting me hyped up to say, yeah, I think I can get back into watching all these games and being able to see what's gonna lead up to the playoffs. Because I don't care what they win, I don't care how many games they win as far as Brooklyn. Even as far as just in the same category as Clippers, what are y'all going to do in the playoffs? Is James Harden going to show up in the playoffs? Or is we just going to get Kevin Durant? Because we're not sure what's going to go on with Kyrie Irving. That's what we got to keep understanding. I just want to know, are they going to still try to bring the same dominance that they're talking about as far as giving them their hype like they did with LeBron, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh? Or any other super team that's been formed, because I feel like Boston, when they got Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, and Ray Allen, Paul Pierce was already there, of course, because he was already a Celtic. I feel like they didn't get as much of that hype and as much as that push that LeBron and them got. But at the same time, as far as LeBron, when he went to the Heat, LeBron was the same one on the stage saying, not one, not two, not three. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. Excuse me, I had to get something to drink. That brings kind of a difference with what's going on with Brooklyn. But at the same time, Miami Heat didn't have the same pure shooters that Brooklyn has. Kevin Durant in the Knicks, like, he can shoot from anywhere. Then you have James Harden coming out there, pulling up. Step back, pull up. Step back, pull up. So, yeah. We have to give credit what credit's due as far as the shooters go, the pure shooters they do have. And even with Kyrie Irving, We're not, no matter what I say or what's going on with Kyrie Irving now, and it seems like he just don't want to play, or I don't know what's going on, but we have to give him his flowers and what he did with Golden State and getting LeBron over that hill when he did help, like he did his part. Now we have to give him his credit. But at the same time, it's just like, do you want to play or not? That's what we want to know. But like I said, this is going to be exciting to see. And I do want to see what the chemistry is going to be like with Brooklyn. To me, that's the whole thing. It's not Kevin Durant and James Harden. To me, it's James Harden, Kevin Durant, and Kyrie Irving. Let's see how everything is going to work with those three. And with everything coming in as far as who's going to be the ball dominant player on that team. And can they beat the Los Angeles Lakers? Y'all leave your comments if you want to in Sprinkler or on YouTube. This is the Low Key Podcast, episode 47. I'm So Brooklyn.
Their abilities combined with the style of play that they have, there is no one that would be, especially LeBron James. He hasn't had to deal with that duo. He might have had one of those dudes. He hasn't had to have two of them on the same team, particularly when he was new